Welcome back to another episode of WRPL, a podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, listening to, all the things we are consuming. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And it is Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Steve.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Ben.
Aren't we so cool that we're not with friends and family, that we are just here talking about unimportant stuff?
Because our listeners are our family.
Yeah, we're up to like 15 subscribers now, so that's pretty great.
First 20 subscribers get something free.
More episodes, yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. We haven't done this in a bit, so I've
been busy. That's my fault.
Blame it on Steve.
Yeah.
I have a completely open schedule because I'm a big fat loser. So
the best big fat loser, though.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
At least it's something. Well, let's get into it. I think you have more than me, so why don't you start us off, Steve?
Okay. I have not completed the Whirlpool, so I didn't have something to read for this week. I'm sorry. Yeah. I have a stack of comic books here that I did want to read, but just haven't found the time quite yet. Borrowed from my soon-to-be brother-in-law. He doesn't know I borrowed him, but don't worry about it.
Borrowed is in quotes.
Yeah. But anyway, I listened to a new podcast this week. It is the Lessons from a Screenplay podcast. It is for anyone who may be a film fan on YouTube. Lessons from a Screenplay is a YouTube channel where they do video essays and deep dives into different movies and what maybe that movie did well with like either theme or a character arc or whatever. It's a really interesting YouTube channel, and if you're a fan of film, check it out. They have real interesting videos and really go into what makes a screenplay pop and how that screenplay transitions to film. And so the podcast is just more of a deep dive on specific films, and it's a group of 4 people, I believe, sometimes 3, and they'll occasionally bring a guest star on. And they just talk about the movie and what about the screenplay works and what doesn't, why the film is great, and what lessons they've learned by the end. Of course, the one I started listening to first was they did 3 episodes for The Rings.
Of course.
So I listened to that one first, and they're all about an hour long. So it's not gonna eat up your time. It's not a 4-hour discussion or anything like that.
Unlike this podcast sometimes.
Oh, you have listened to it?
No, I said unlike this podcast that will eat up your time if you listen to some of our episodes.
Gotcha. So yeah, if you're a fan of film and just kind of want to hear people talk about a specific film and what they liked about it, and there's behind the scenes trivia about it and all that kind of stuff, and just get more into films you love and like hearing people talk about it, I recommend Lessons from a Screenplay. And also check out their YouTube channel, real awesome video essays about film. Cool.
That sounds right up our alleys.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I watched the second season of Masters of the Universe Revelation. This is the He-Man reboot made by Kevin Smith on Netflix.
Yep. They
released the first season. It was 5 episodes earlier this year, and they released the second 5 episodes just a few days ago. And I wasn't going to watch it instantly. I was looking for stuff to watch, and I couldn't really find anything, so I was like, fine, I'll just watch He-Man, whatever. Because I enjoyed the first 5 episodes. It was really fun. Did you watch He-Man?
I watched the first episode, and I liked it. The problem is it's a property I didn't grow up with, so I don't really care about He-Man. I never really watched anything He-Man. I know He-Man as in the cultural zeitgeist of it all. So I was like, I'll give it a shot. And I did like the animation, and I think it is like a fun property. It's just something I didn't connect with beforehand. So jumping in now in my 30s, it's just, I don't know if I really care. I tapped out.
And that totally makes sense, especially since they took He-Man and didn't try to put logic to it or update looks and tech. Mm-hmm. Nope, it looks just like the toys before. No matter how ridiculous, how dumb their names were, they still used it, but made it make sense. Well, in the first season, He-Man has died, Skeletor has died, and it's all about Teela trying to figure out a way to bring He-Man back. In the second season, He-Man is back, and so is Skeletor. But now Skeletor has the sword and says the words, "I have the power." And now he's like Mega Skeletor.
Cool.
Really cool. And then He-Man's kind of like, well, you may have the sword, but you're not the champion of Eternia. I have the power. And he says it without having the sword. And he turns into this huge, like, Hulk monster. Like, enormous. And is just, like, rampaging through. So you have, like, this god versus the Hulk. And they're just beating the shit out of each other. And the thing I like about this season, the stakes get, like, really, really big, and it gets really existential with some of the things that they're talking about. Like, now that Skeletor has the power, he's able to see past Eternia and their universe and the entire visible world, and he's gonna use all this power to finally take down He-Man. But
does it do one of those things where, like, it zooms
Yes.
out and you see Kevin Smith, like, writing the scripts?
No,
or something?
it goes further and further and further until it's like you see the edges of space, and Evelyn gets to become the sorcerer of Grayskull, and she realizes how empty and alone the whole universe is, and there is no God, and we're born alone, life is pain, and then we die, so she's gonna make it easy on all of us and just wipe everybody out. It gets really deep, and it's really fun. Unfortunately, the Tila stuff and her becoming like the new sorcerer because her mom was the sorceress, none of that stuff is all that great, but the He-Man Skeletor stuff is really, really good. And it's a shame Skeletor isn't in the first season more because he's the star and it's Mark Hamill doing an amazing Skeletor and he's just like having a ball with it. Mm-hmm. And he just adds so much life to this second half and it's really fun. It's set up for a third. If they don't, no biggie. This ends on a nice note. But if you have any inkling for Americanized kind of anime fighting, then check out Masters of the Universe. Revelation, Season 2.
Cool. We'll just knock out some of the things that we've watched that we won't go into because, you know, they either just started or all the episodes haven't aired. But Hawkeye, what'd you think?
Hawkeye, I thought the first episode was pretty great.
Okay.
Really good at establishing who everybody was. Second episode I didn't find as enjoyable because I don't know if I like Kate Bishop yet. She's she's 22 in the show,
yeah.
But she kind of acts like the precocious 16-year-old, too smart for her own good in a lot of high school movies. And she kind of rubs me the wrong way at times.
Okay.
Maybe it will soften in the next 4 episodes, but I don't know. She's kind of the thing that's holding me back, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, obviously I think they're doing the buddy cop classic scenario of like, I'm the, young crazy one who's going to get us in all sorts of trouble, and Jeremy Renner's just like, oh, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy Renner, I feel like, is kind of getting too old for for
maybe.
all the superhero stuff. I mean, I love Jeremy Renner, but I enjoyed the series. I didn't know Vera Farmiga was in it at all, so when she showed up, I was like, oh wow, okay, cool. My problem, it's not even really a problem. She's Haley Steinfeld's fine, and I think she'll do great in the series and all that. My issue is just like sometimes there's moments in the show, and it's just a Marvel thing too, where I think certain things just seem so. This is like a movie thing. Mm-hmm. This isn't a reality thing. Like the opening scene is her shooting the arrow at the bell tower, and because the bell tower rang, it collapsed.
No, I think it was because the inside of the bell is the thing that dings. The bell itself isn't supposed to move, so when the rope was whipping around, it just had too much momentum, and it just broke loose.
I just feel like... Okay.
Yeah, structurally, it's
that just,
whipping a rope around makes the whole thing collapse.
Yeah, I'd like to know the science behind it, because you're probably right. It's just that first scene, it already took me out of it, because I was just like, I don't think an arrow shooting a rope would make an entire building collapse. It just seems like such a thing. It's like, oh, how do we get her kicked out or show that she's a troublemaker? It's just like, you could have done anything else.
Sure. And or if she used like a grenade to hit the bell to make a bigger sound, but that causes structural damage.
Whatever. So, but I wish I had other examples because there's just certain parts in the show I'm just like, oh, come on. Oh, I remember what it is. I remember. So in episode 2, Hawkeye, spoiler alert, gets taken, and she gets a call from the bad guys, and her mom works at this security tech firm, and she's like, okay, good, and then just instantly like, tracks him. It's like, should any security company be instantly able to track Hawkeye in Avengers phone? And just seemed like such a movie thing where she's like, oh, we need to advance the plot real quick. So luckily she has this app on her phone that like can pinpoint whoever instantly, and just kind of seemed like. And I know she works for the company, and her mom is the owner of the company, but like, should this 22-year-old who like, I don't even know what her intern job is at that company. It's like, so she just has full access to the top security breaching software. Once again, it's fine. It's a fun Marvel show. It's for, everyone. It's just like little moments like that where I'm just like, I just kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, all right, come on. Yeah. But yeah, so far I'm having fun with the show.
Two things three things. One, what's his name? Tony Dalton? The stepdad or the
Lalo from
yes. When he showed up, it was just like, oh my god, it's this guy.
He's definitely a bad guy.
Oh yeah, he will never play a role where I ever trust him.
He's just got one of those faces like he looks skeezy.
Yeah, he's a slime ball. Yeah.
But I like him.
I loved the Avengers musical. I thought it was. It was cringy, and I don't want to listen to that song, but I want to see this play. It was, and I know it's written to be kind of hokey and don't take it too serious, but I want to see the whole thing because they leave at the halfway point, and that's like at Avengers 1. So does this play end with them defeating Thanos? And I'd like to see what they do in this story.
Yeah, and you would think it would be called like Avengers the musical, but it's just called Rogers. So it's the Steve Rogers story, I guess. I mean, I remember like exactly what you said. As I was watching, I was kind of like, I thought this was cringy. I'm like, oh man, like I don't know if this play would be any good, but I know I'd see it if it was a real thing.
But my favorite thing so far.
I could do this all day.
Yeah, that was great. I love that. And then the guy playing Hulk is just a guy wearing a green hoodie. Yeah, so good stuff. But my favorite thing so far is what it's like to live in a world with superheroes and be one of those superheroes, and you're not a superpowered being, and the celebrity behind it, and people recognize you in a bathroom and pay for your meal because of all that you did. I really like that aspect of it. We don't get to see it all that much except for people on the news going like, oh yeah, Iron Man, he's the best. We don't see heroes interacting with people just as people.
Right.
So
that is cool.
Yeah. We'll probably do a recap or something once the show's done.
The show's over,
in a month.
Yeah, we might do an entire episode about it.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
Next.
Wheel of Time came out.
It sure did.
Yeah, on Amazon Prime. Do you have any prior experience?
Not at all. It was one of those things where I've heard a lot about and I was interested, but it's like, oh, it's 13 books. Do I even want to invest my time in this? Fuck it, I'll skip it.
I mean, if you include the prequel book, I think it's actually 15.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's actually my best friend's favorite book series, so he was super excited about it, and there's a YouTuber who I follow for book recommendations for sci-fi and fantasy, and that's how I've been reading a lot of the books that I've been reading right now, and it's his favorite series. So like going into it, I've heard a lot about Wheel of Time, and there's a lot of hype around the show, and obviously any fantasy show nowadays is going to get pitched as like, is this going to be the next Game of Thrones? So is it as well written? No. Do I like all the actors though? I think all the characters have solid beginnings. I need a little bit more. I wouldn't say that anyone's particularly a standout per se.
No.
I mean, obviously Rosamund Pike is the biggest star of the show, but it's not like, so far I don't think she's gotten anything like juicy to really like be,
because she's like injured for half of it.
But I gotta say, I think the world looks great. I think it's well shot. Clearly there's a budget to this show. It doesn't from season 1 of Game of Thrones, obviously that had HBO money and all that looked good, but if you look at season 1 compared to the final season 1 looks like garbage in comparison. So if this show does well, it'd be interesting to see how it evolves. But the thing I like the most so far, besides the set design, is I like that the Trollocs look huge and they're practical effects and they're scary and they're like, I think that not the opening, but in the first episode, that attack on the town is really, really cool and scary, and it's like, oh, it like surprised me, and I really dug that.
Yeah, I wish they had a little more of a unique design. They just seem like minotaurs and like demonic minotaurs.
Sure.
Whereas like the White Walkers, yeah, they're just zombies, but there was something unique about it. This just seemed like a mythological beast that we've seen before. But I do like the effects. All the blending of practical and CG was fantastic, and really bloody, more bloody than I thought it was. I think it was in the third episode when you see one ripping apart another one to eat its guts. It's very disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and obviously we'll get this with time, I think, I don't want to just keep comparing it to Game of Thrones, but what else can you really compare it to?
Yeah.
Where it's like, Game of Thrones did a good job of establishing, like, these are your characters, these are the houses, this is the world. Obviously, this world is much more magical than the Game of Thrones, so that might have been easier. But I think that there's a lot of world building the show had to do in the first 3 episodes, and you didn't all quite get it in the first or second. Like, it's going to take some time to sort of really figure out who all these players are, and like, you have a thing called the Fade, which is like this faceless, multi-toothed butthole monster thing. But you don't really know what it does, except it just like controls the Trollocs, and he works for the dark. It's kind of like a ring wraith working for the Dark One, but you don't really know who all the players are, and you're getting introduced to this cult in the second episode, and there's just a lot of moving pieces, and I hope by the end you kind of like it all melds well. I'm interested, but I think the show still has a lot of work to do.
Sure, and I really like those. What are they called? The Light, or that group of
the Children of the Light.
Children of the Light. Really good introduction to that character, and really says like, here's your villain. He's a bad guy. There's no mistaking it, and I'm really interested in seeing what happens more with that than any sort of prophecy, rebirth of the dragons.
Also,
sort of thing.
to borrow the kids' dialogue from nowadays, Children of the Light's drip is dope. Like, their uniforms look great. I love like the one armed, like golden armor, like all very clean. I don't know. They all looked really, really cool. And I mean, we've all seen the white cultist sort of look, but I don't know. Just something about this look, I'm just like, damn, these guys look dope.
Yeah, looks really good. I'd say probably my favorite thing that has happened so far is in that first episode where I don't know characters' names yet, but when he kills his wife.
Perrin.
Man, I did not see that coming, and I audibly gasped.
Me and my fiance gasped as well. We were just like,
yeah,
wow, like,
what a great, kicking off point for that character of everyone's going like, oh, I'm so sorry that these bad guys killed your wife, and he's just like, yeah, it was them.
So it's interesting you bring that up. We don't have to do a deep dive on this, but that character, all the characters in the books are like 15, 16, and they've obviously aged them up, which is smart. This doesn't need to be especially as violent and stuff is going to be, you don't need to make these people teenagers or whatever. That being said, he didn't have a wife in the book, so he never...
never happened
in the book.
Oh.
And so the guy I follow online is talking about it, and have you ever heard the term fridging?
Yes.
Okay.
With Green Lantern and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Green Lantern or Green Arrow? I think it's Green Lantern.
I can't remember. But
introduce a character, kill him off just to add stakes and drama for your main character.
Typically women. Women in fridges is the term.
Yep.
It's been shortened to fridging. Yeah. And so, but I'm not necessarily... I mean, you can't necessarily eliminate that from narrative possibilities because it's a, unpopular trope in literature or any sort of media. But I mean, I thought it was effective in the first episode, and I'm interested to see where that character goes because I think Perrin definitely does seem to be the character that the audience is supposed to like the most. As in, he's the sweet one. He doesn't appear to be like he would be the great warrior. He's going to be your Merry Pippin kind of character who just like, oh, he's fun, but now he's just thrust into these awful situations where like you have someone like Rand or Matt who might be more like, okay, we're willing to like fight monsters and stuff. So we'll see what his journey's like.
When Rand showed up, I was like, okay, I know this guy from something. What do I know him? And I checked his IMDb and like, I don't know this guy from anything. He just
generic
has this
hero face.
He kind of looks like Hayden Christensen.
Okay, yeah.
But okay, who do you think is going to be the dragon? It's one of these 5. Who's the reborn one?
So I think I know the answer.
Oh, okay. Well, don't spoil it for me if you know the answer. I am guessing that it's, what's his name? Tom? Matt? He has the normal name. Matt?
Who's kind of like the thiefy one with the 2 sisters? Yeah, Matt.
Matt. I think it's going to be him.
Okay.
Because I think it's too obvious to make it...
Rand?
No, the other guy.
Perrin?
Yeah. Just like, oh, look, this tragic thing happened to him. Power's going to awake. It's going to make him go mad because it makes all the males go mad. That seems too obvious.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Rand because he has more important story stuff with Egwene, and she has her own thing going. Mm-hmm. So I think it kind of defaults to Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm 90% sure I know the answer.
Okay.
But there is so many books, and I don't know if I think I know the answer, and it's actually like in the last 2 books it changes kind of thing or something like that.
And I read a little factoid that this series has like 2,700 named characters throughout the entire series. And I was talking to a friend, and she was trying to get into it, and that was her main complaint. Was there's so many characters, it's hard to keep track of everyone because you name someone and then they may not ever be important again, or they may show up, books later, and it's like, who is this person again? So, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to read the series. The problem is, like, if there's a trilogy, I can get by a trilogy. Mm-hmm. I know I can knock out 3 books. If I start this series, I'm gonna hate starting it. Like, I'm gonna have to read them all back to back. It's like 15 books back to back of a series, like I don't even know if I like. Yeah. And if I buy the first one, if I buy the second one, I'm gonna read them all. Mm-hmm. If I read the first one and I don't like it, then I can get. But it's like I want to read it, but I also don't know if I want to spend this much time and this much money on 15 books. Yeah. But we'll see.
And for me, it's I'll wait till the show's done because hey, if it's a knockout success, we have all these books to pull from for future seasons. Mm-hmm. Who knows how many they'll actually go. Yeah. To. I'm sure plenty of books can get condensed down and a lot of subplots can be pulled out. But like I tried to do with Game of Thrones, it was I'll wait till it's done and then I'll read the books. Well, I couldn't wait, and so I read the books, and I still have more books to go. Mm-hmm. And I think even when those come out, I'm probably not going to even read them because I don't remember what happened in the books. I read them so quickly, it was just like in and out of my brain.
Yeah, I don't want to see the show go 15 seasons if you do a season of... But I think... I did not do my research in terms of figuring out if this first season is just 2 books combined. We'll see. Yeah. But hopefully it's... No matter how successful it is, I don't want my next 15 years being this show.
Yeah.
No offense to the show. It's just... I don't know how much time I have left on this earth, and half of it's going to be with the show. Mm-hmm. No thanks.
Before we move on, I want to say one thing I don't like about the show. I don't like Rosamund Pike. I don't think she fits. I think they should have recast for someone else. Sorry.
We can't get Cate Blanchett.
No. I don't know. You could get what's her name?
Now, does she not fit because she doesn't do a good job, or she doesn't fit because everyone else in the show you've never seen anywhere before, and then here she is. She's very much like, oh, you're a movie star.
Actor. Yeah, maybe it's a little bit of that. I think she's doing a bad job. I don't think she's really selling it, and maybe this is just not her genre.
And I don't know if she survives throughout the entire series. Like, this kind of seems like a role an actress would take because she knows this is the Ned Stark role. Like, I'll be done after a season or 2.
Sure.
And then they don't need me anymore. But I think her character's around the entire time. I honestly don't know. So, I mean, you could do some magical bullshit where it's just, I use magic to disguise my face. Because I think, actually, the character of Matt has already left the show.
Really?
Well, the actor. I think if I remember correctly, it's him, and I think he had some sort of like family issue or something, so he quit the show, and he's getting replaced. And he's my favorite character so far, I think.
That's annoying.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But we'll talk about it more when the show is over.
Yeah. All right, what's the next thing? Big Mouth?
Sure, we can go into Big Mouth.
Sure. Big Mouth came back for season 5, and like all Netflix series that I enjoy, you watch it over a weekend and then you kind of forget about it. But I love Big Mouth. I know it has a huge anti-fan base. What's the opposite of fan base?
Hate group.
Hate group, sure.
Or toxic fan base.
There's a lot of people who just hate this show, and I get it. It is kind of one of the most disgusting shows out there, but it's very funny. Maybe some of it's a little because of how shocking it is, but it's also very informative. And I think it would be
informative without being preachy, too.
Yes. And I'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who has never had an experience that is in one of these episodes. Mm-hmm. They cover everything so wonderfully that you just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Big Mouth is one of those shows that I always binge watch. I try not to binge watch, but that's not true. I binge watch when I can because I have a hard time stopping a story once I start it. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you I loved every episode, and I always love Lola and Coach Steve. Every line they say is a goddamn slam dunk home run.
Not a lot of Coach Steve in this.
No,
it's weird.
This
like
season.
In the first two, I think he was getting more and more, and then 3, I think he got a ton, where it's like the diaper barge and stuff like that. And then it was almost too much Coach Steve.
Yeah.
And then they really pulled back the last 2 seasons. And it's a shame. He's a great character. I wish they used him a little more.
I think it's just once Coach Steve had sex, it's like, all right, what do you do with him? Because you just make him say crazy stuff in the background. And like you have so many characters whose sole purpose is to just say like crazy stuff. Like what's true. Coach Steve really going to add when he's just the dumb guy?
Yeah.
Because I feel like him and the gross hormone monster that's like dying. Rick, yeah. They're essentially the same guy.
Yeah. How'd you feel about the ending? About like breaking the fourth wall and talking to actual Nick Kroll?
I mean, for the past 4 seasons, they've been breaking the fourth wall all the time.
Sure,
so
yeah.
It's like, does it surprise me? No. I do typically like these kind of things. It's a fun idea of like, oh, like the guy who's running the entire show is literally the guy running the entire show. Like, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But how it goes forward, like Nick knowing that he's in a TV show, or are we just going to kind of like forget all about that, or is it's going to be one of those jokes in like 4 episodes into next season where it's like, well, remember we're on a TV show? Don't even worry about it. I'm sure it'll be fixed by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So it was a fun concept, and I feel like they did it because they were leading into their spin-off show, HR.
Yes.
What's it called?
Human
Resources.
Is it just called Human Resources?
I think it's called Human Resources.
Okay. Which I thought we would have gotten before another season.
Yeah, I thought so too, because it seemed like one of those things that was already on the horizon. But whatever. So, yeah, I love the season. Every episode was funny. I love all these characters, and I think it's one of the funniest shows on television, in quotation marks. But if you ask me to tell you like my favorite joke, I don't really remember a whole lot because I just breezed through it, and that's kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Except for the Lola mom's centered Hoopa Stank gear for Christmas, which I know. A Hoopa Tank and
Hooba Booba.
Hoopa Booba, yeah. Hooba Booba Bubblegum. Yeah.
Yeah, good shit.
Great stuff. If you haven't seen Big Mouth yet, go watch Big Mouth from
it's not for everybody, but if you like Nick Kroll, if you like John Mulaney,
if you like comedy,
if you like Jason Mantzoukas,
Jason Mantzoukas is also great.
Yeah,
probably my 3rd favorite character.
In the first season, I didn't love Jay. It was just like, oh, he's that dirty, gross kid.
Yeah, he was very grating in the beginning,
but he really grows on you.
And I think of all the characters, he has the most character growth.
Yeah.
Because Nick, his kind of thing is, am I going to be a good guy or am I going to be a douchebag? Andrew is always a cringy, gross douchebag. And Andrew, I hate. Like, he's got John Mulaney's voice is great, and he's got some funny stuff, but man, like Andrew makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And Jay, I just like where his character goes, and his love affairs with pillows, and his relationship with Lola, and like discovering his differing sexuality, and just I don't know. I think he pairs well with all these other characters, and Jay's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think. In previous seasons, it was always Missy was my favorite, and I don't think she was great. And I don't know if that's the changing of the voice actor isn't bringing what I expect to the table, or if they just didn't necessarily know what to do with the character. But I did like all of her hate worm stuff.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
I'll just be real quick. Game Changer came back on a couple weeks ago on Dropout. I don't know how many subscribers Dropout has. I don't know anyone who has it but me. I'm surprised I have it, to be frank. But Game Changer is the best game show ever. And I'm not saying that with hyperbole. Like, I know Jeopardy is a classic.
Sure.
And there's game shows that have stood the test of time just because they work for a specific... They hit all the right notes. So it's hard to compare. But in terms of comedy, creativity, fun, and just batshit insanity, Game Changer is the greatest. Yeah. And I would recommend getting Dropout before Game Changer. Actually is another great show. Well, I won't even get into all the content on Dropout. Look it up. But Game Changer, it's the best.
Yeah, just go on YouTube and watch clips.
Yeah,
and
check it out.
And if it doesn't make sense, that's fine, because every episode is completely different from the next to a certain degree. You never know what the game is going to be.
Yeah, contestants never know. It changes every episode. Sometimes they do game samers where they've played the game before, but because they do game samers because that episode was such a slam dunk fun that they do it again. Yeah. You and I are big fans of impressions, and there's 3 or 4 impression episodes now, and each one is great because it's just they get 3 guys who can do great sound effects, and just their interpretation of, like, they'll take a picture and be like, all right, do an impression of this picture, and just what these guys come up with is just hilarious. It's fantastic. Pretty much every episode is just improv comedians improving these games, and I can't recommend it enough. It's the best game show ever made.
I wonder if Jake and Amir will ever come back for something like that.
I just think they're done with college humor.
It's like, did they have a falling out, or was it just our contract's up and so we just don't want to associate anymore?
No, I mean, I'm sure they're close with everyone over there, because I mean, they did come back and do the their Jake and Amir like Donald Trump episode. And I think they've done other ones. I think it's just they're so busy with all their stuff because they each do like multiple podcasts. And they're running their own network, and it's like I think it's just like we've outgrew that, so going back doesn't do anything for us. It'd be it's not a lateral move, it's a downward move. So, but I would love to see them on the show because I think they would fit in so well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But who would be the third? Do you get Ben Schwartz?
I think you get Murph. Well, Ben Schwartz, yeah. Or Thomas Middleditch. I think, maybe you get Murph with Jake and Amir, and then you get I'd like to see Brennan with Ben Schwartz and Thomas Middleditch, and then those guys do sort of like an improv thing. Brennan Lee Mulligan, look up Brennan Lee Mulligan too. He's the best college humor has had since probably Jake and Amir. He's fantastic.
Incredibly
and he runs their other show that's a huge hit, Dimension 20, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. So
cool. Well, can I go next, or do you want to go next?
No, you can go.
Okay.
Because the next thing I want to talk about probably will take a bit.
Okay. Well, I only have 2 things left before we get to our main topic. Which one? I'll stick with TV. There is a show on HBO Max called The Other Two. It's written by Sarah Schneider from College Humor and SNL. And there's another guy, but I don't know his name off the top of my head because I didn't realize this was created by her. This is season 2 that's on HBO. This was a Comedy Central show that got 1 season and then it just kind of disappeared. And I thought it was coming back and never heard anything. And then all of a sudden it was on HBO. So the story is 2 siblings, brother and sister. They're only like 9 months apart, so they're practically twins. The older one is the woman. His name's Carrie. Her name is...
Wait, is that show where the brother's the actor?
Yeah, he's an actor. He's trying to be an actor. Yeah. She's a former dancer and kind of gave it up. And their younger brother, who's like 10, 15 years younger.
Like a Bieber type.
He's a Bieber type.
I did watch the show with you. Okay, yeah. I do remember this.
So they are living in his shadow. He's just talentless, but he's very charming and likable, and he hits superstardom. And then their mom, played by Molly Shannon, she gets her own talk show at the very, very end of season 1. And so at the start of this, the older brother is working on the show. He's gay, and so he's doing like little hosting things like the Gay Minute and just talking about like gay things in gay entertainment. And the daughter or the sister, she doesn't want to work for her mom because she's like, I want to be my own thing, but she's totally failing at it, so she has to work for her mom. And then the pop star, his name's Chase Dreams. He is supposed to like go off to college and just like live a normal life, but he like bails after a week because he's just a dumb idiot and all he wants to sing, but he's talentless, so they're trying to get him to do other things. This show is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen. The second season had me dying. Almost every line is so perfectly crafted. They're such likable people, and it's kind of, I don't want to say vulgar, but it's a little extreme in some of their comedy. Like, there's a whole episode where Carrie, he's like in his 30s, and he just had his first boyfriend, and like he came out late, and you know, doesn't trust Grindr and things like that. But then he's kind of becoming comfortable with his sexuality in public. And so he's on Grindr, and he posts a picture of his butthole to the dude, but it's like on iPhones, you know, like live photos where it's like shows a few seconds before the photo's taken. Okay. So his face is in it, and then it gets spread around, and so it's like, oh, the host of the Hollywood Gay Minute is posting hole on the internet, and they constantly say that. It's like, oh, show hole, I don't have your holes in my phone, post hole, and it's like, it's so vulgar at times. And it's shocking that these things are on TV. Yeah, it's on HBO, so it's not that big of a deal. But it shows a side of the world that you're just not familiar with. Like, I don't know a lot of gay men and know their experiences of dating, so it's nice to see it through him. And I got there's this one other joke. So on their mom show, she's giving away like $25,000 to kids coming out to their dads. So this guy, they show a video when he's calling his dad, and he's like, Dad, I'm gay. And the dad on the phone is just like, that's really gross, but you're my son. But then it turns out they're not father and son. They're actually like married, and he's just really young, and the other guy's much older looking, and they've been together for years and stuff, and so they're just scamming. So then Carrie with his boyfriend, they see these two in a restaurant and think like, oh, let's show the father that it's okay to be gay. And so they're like taking him around town showing things, and like, you know, they're already gay. And there's a line where they're just like walking behind him, and it's just like, should we like, you know, just fuck them? Should we just hold them down and fuck them? I know it's assault, but I think it would be really good for them, because like you have these two guys who are in a relationship for 6 months explaining to this married couple of many years of what it's like to be gay, and it's very funny. I highly recommend it. Don't watch it with grandma though.
I might have to check that out, because I do remember enjoying the episode or two that I watched with you and going like, oh, I hope this sticks around. But I had a feeling, I think we both kind of like knew then, we'd be surprised if there's a second season of the show. But all right, cool.
Yeah, definitely watch that.
I have 4 more things.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I thought you would have had way more.
No, I've been doing a lot of editing and working late, so I'm not watching a whole bunch.
So I'll just try and knock them off quick so we can get into the main topic. I watched The Harder They Fall on Netflix. It is the Idris Elba, Regina King, Jonathan Majors Western, where it's two rival outlaw gangs in a tale of revenge. And it is a lot of fun. I actually really enjoyed it. Westerns, I think, are kind of hit and miss. It's kind of it's one of the genres that was super popular in like the 50s and 60s and just kind of like died away. But I think everyone in this is having a lot of fun. And what I liked most about it is how colorful it was, in that like so many Westerns are either like all like yellow because it's set in like the Mexican desert or whatever. Yeah. Or
it's all brown.
It's all brown, and everyone's wearing like drab clothes. Like, everybody in here is dressed very colorful. Like the sets are all very bright colored. Like everything is like freshly painted in various colors. Everyone in it is just killing it. With the exception of Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Like Idris Elba typically is like the guy who steals every scene, and he's the main antagonist of the story. But he really doesn't say all that much, and he's the leader of this gang. But like, you don't really know why he's the leader, other than like I guess he could be the most ruthless. But there's a guy on the team who's the fastest gun in the West, so it's just like, I know that guy could kill him anytime he wanted to, but maybe he's just not the brains of the operation. But Regina King is like kind of his second in command, and Regina King is great in everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I mean, the story is nothing new about, you know, every Western is about revenge and rival gangs or whatever. So the story itself isn't necessarily going to blow you away, but it's just so stylish and fun, and all the characters are just so cool that it's a really enjoyable movie, and I was never bored throughout it. And there's a great joke where, because the entire cast is black, and their town is like a black town in the sense, it's just like no white people live there. Everyone's segregated. But there's one point where they have to do a heist, and they're like, oh, we got to go to one of the white towns. And they roll into town, and the entire town is painted white. So every building, every bench, like everything is just pure white. I mean, everyone wearing clothes is just wearing normal clothes. It's not like that everyone's dressed in white. But it was just a funny little bit. And the town, let's just call it like Georgetown or whatever. And then in parentheses at the bottom is just a white town. And then just a funny little bit. And I was like, oh, this is kind of clever. So it was a fun sort of juxtaposition of, here are the people in this town full of bright colors, and then just all white. So real fun movie. Recommend it if you like Westerns or like any of the actors in it, because I think it's something that they all really had fun making. I think it was directed by I apologize for not pulling it up, but I think it's made by a musician, and Jay-Z produced it. So it has a great soundtrack too, modern day music. And anyway, so
yeah, I was interested in watching it, but Westerns aren't my thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to pull a trigger. Like, I wanted to watch like The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, but it's just like, oh, it's 3 hours and it's a Western. Yeah, I'll probably pass on that.
Yeah, I think The Ballad of Buster Scruggs is digestible solely because it's multiple stories. So it's like anytime you're about to get bored, it's jumping into a new thing. Where I think this was over 2 hours, but like I said, it's very fun and quick, and I was never bored throughout it. But yeah, it's not something I necessarily recommend to everyone, but if you like Westerns, it's a different change of pace without it being the same sort of drab thing. It's a new take. You know, I think a lot of people might go like, oh, is it kind of like Django, where it's like, no, it's not like Django. It just has an all black cast. Yeah. But it's a lot of fun. I watched Cowboy Bebop, the live action.
Yeah. Is that all out?
It's all out.
It's a Netflix thing.
Yeah. And you've never seen the show, correct? No. It's different, but it's not as bad as the fan base is making it out to be. I get it. Like, it's the thing you love more than anything, and it has a special place in your heart. You grew up with it, and it's not that show, and I don't think it could ever be. But in terms of taking something anime and making it live action, it's probably the best live action anime thing ever made.
All right.
And I actually kind of enjoyed it by the time it was over.
Okay.
They definitely change a ton of stuff,
but are they changes just to be different, or are they changes to shorten things up or make things make more sense?
I think they do some things better. Some things were like, there'll be episodes where they'll be up against this thing, and the whole episode on the anime would be about the idea of just like what it is to be human or whatever. But then it's like they're only using this as a device to sort of explain plot. So they're not doing like a deep dive like of themes and ideas from the anime in this episode. They're just like, okay, we're taking this thing that we liked from there and just using it to push a grander narrative.
Okay.
So one of the things I like about the live action version is in the anime, you have your main villain, Vicious, and Julia, and you really only see them, like, so limited, and every episode is more so self-contained, like, oh, we're on this bounty hunt, which doesn't apply to the grander, overarching villain or problem, where, like, the entire show, these two characters are in every episode, and so they really expand on their backstories and give them more to do, and because his love interest in the anime, you barely saw, and in this, she's in every episode, and you actually give her a character as opposed to just being the love interest from his troubled past. But the cast, I think, all are great in their roles. The guy who plays Jet, I think his name's Mustafa Shakir, or
The Old Spice guy?
no, different guy. But anyway, or is it Mustafa? It doesn't matter. The guy is fantastic. I think he kills it in this role. Like he does the best, like, transition from anime to live action. Like, sounds like him, carries himself like him. I think he's great, and they give him sort of more than they did in the anime. I honestly think it's kind of fun. There are shots that look cheap, and there are shots that look great. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't know if it's just like they ran out of budget, or it's the director, or whatever it is. It's just, sometimes it's like, there's a great show here, and then other times it's like, the anime is holding it back, or there's just some things that don't transition well. I don't really know, but if it does get a season 2, I would watch season 2. I don't think it's as bad as people say, and I think even if you've never seen the anime, this might actually be more for you, because you don't have to, like, compare it to anything.
Okay.
I think this is a show that older audience members might go like, oh, this is kind of weird, but I think they still might go like, oh, it's not half bad, because of all the animes to adapt, it's one of the more grounded ones that are popular, because all these other animes are just like, all right, how are we going to do energy blasts out of our hands, or like do these super fast fight sequences where, like, you can't really tell what's going on, or like everyone's got super ridiculous hairstyles that are like, all these other anime adaptations, like in Japan, look awful because they don't have, like, Hollywood big budgets and stuff, and they're not acted very well, because it just doesn't work. But this one, I think, works more than it doesn't.
So what you're saying is the Japanese are not good at adapting their own
you really
stuff.
need to
It's
stop.
only Americans who can adapt things properly.
You need to stop trying to make me sound like a piece of shit in these podcasts, because you do this every time. It's like, you take something I say that has nothing to do with what I'm saying, and you're like, I'm going to make Steve look like an asshole. Stop doing that.
Okay, fine. I would say the best live-action anime adaptation is Speed Racer.
Ugh.
You've never even seen Speed Racer.
I have seen Speed Racer.
No, you said you didn't see.
No, I saw it in theaters, and I've said for years I didn't like it.
Speed Racer is amazing. It's great. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stupid, like, little kid and monkey stuff, but it really captures the spirit of the cartoon.
I'm sure it does. Maybe if I saw it now, I'd have a better appreciation for it. But the day when it came out, I saw it in theaters, and I just remember going, not for me.
Okay.
I didn't like the CGI-ness of it all, and I didn't care about it. Just seemed cartoonish, and I know it's based off a cartoon, but
it is like a psychedelic
it's so
clown
weird.
vomit of nauseating colors, but it's so well edited. It's amazing.
Okay.
All right,
Next thing, I watched on Hulu Only Murderers in the Building.
Oh, I've been waiting to watch this.
Yeah. So I wasn't going to watch it, but my fiance was interested in it, and she watches a lot of stuff that I want to watch, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I'll watch the first episode with you.
You get one.
Yeah, you get one. And the other thing going into it that I had a problem with is I like Steve Martin, I like Martin Short, but I didn't really grow up on them, and I think this just seemed kind of like a vehicle that is, they're just looking to do something, and it's, I don't want to see old men try and, like, relive the glory days.
Okay.
So that's what my concern was. And boy, was I wrong. This show is great. I loved it. I think they're both really funny. I like their dynamic. Steve Martin is kind of playing kind of your shut-in introvert old actor who, like, never really got big. He was on, like, a hit show, but after that he just kind of died off. Martin Short is a guy who worked on Broadway, but his show tanked, and now he's like struggling for money. And then Selena Gomez is your young tenant with a mysterious past, and they're just fans of this murder mystery podcast, so they start their own. And the mystery that as it unravels is interesting and kept me guessing the whole time, and you didn't know where it was going to go, and all the characters are a lot of fun, and I highly recommend the show. I can't believe how much I liked it. Funny and interesting in the mystery aspect of it. It all works really well for a show that I didn't expect anything from.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know when I'm going to pull the trigger, but I will eventually. And since it is Thanksgiving, and you mentioned Steve Martin, if you want to watch a good Thanksgiving Steve Martin movie, watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It's a very good movie.
I've always wanted to see it, but never have.
It's good stuff. Well, I got one quick one. I'm not going to get too deep in it. I watched Wolfwalkers on Apple Plus.
I wanted to watch that too.
I know that this is the third movie, and the director is like Irish folklore trilogy. I hadn't seen the other ones, like The Secret of Kells is one of them, and I don't remember the second one. But pretty much, there's a young girl who, when she goes to sleep, she can turn into a wolf, and she's protecting her mom, who's been asleep for a long time because she hasn't come back from her wolf status. There's a young daughter of a wolf hunter who gets bit by the Wolfwalker, and now she can turn into a wolf while she sleeps. And they live in a forest outside of a Irish community, medieval community that is trying to rid the wolves from the forest because the leader is a religious zealot and thinks all the wolves are evil and sent by the devil. And it's just a story of these two kind of becoming friends and learning how to accept your differences and trying to be who you are and not necessarily listen to your parents. And it's just a really simple, cute story with really good voice acting and really simple but interesting looking art design. I recommend it if you have Apple TV. And in about 20 years, I can totally see this getting a live action remake. For sure. It's like you never know what's going to get remade in the future. But 20 years down the line, I can see this being a property that they're like, yeah, we could turn this into something more. Because every time a little thing would be brought up, it would make me think like, well, what about this and what about that? And I could see them totally expanding it and making it either a longer movie or a series. It's good.
Yeah, I remember watching the trailer for it and thinking like, oh, I really like the art style. And I know it was nominated for Best Animated Picture.
One of the only animated foreign films.
Yeah. And it seemed like I can't remember what won that year, but I think it was a Pixar film that won, obviously.
Why wouldn't
but it seemed
Onward
like if
or
it
something
wasn't,
like that.
Yeah, if it wasn't this, it was going to be Wolfwalkers, and that's why I always wanted to check it out and I always like Irish folklore and folklore in general and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think this is up your alley.
Yeah, if I had Apple Plus, I would check it out.
Yeah, yeah, that and Ted Lasso,
and yeah,
lots of other things.
So I have one last thing.
Oh, do you?
Before the main topic.
Oh, I thought. I'm sorry. I
had three more with the watch, but sorry.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I played something. I played Little Hope, which is part of the Dark Pictures anthology.
Is that the Choose Your Own Adventure thing that we were
doing?
Oh, okay. This is the second one?
This is the second one,
Okay.
Yeah. So we played Man of Medan together. I was going to wait to play Little Hope with you, but it was taking a while. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to play it.
Might as well.
And plus the reviews for it weren't as good as Man of Medan, so I was like, maybe you wouldn't be missing anything. I actually liked it more. I will say Man of Medan I thought had some very effective scares and like a more creepy tone to it. This game didn't scare me at all, so that kind of disappointed me. I didn't think any of the scares were effective because... So what Little Hope is a group of 5 people are in a bus crash and they get stranded in this town called Little Hope, and they discover that the town used to have like witch trials and people were burned at the stake and all that. So there's multiple times throughout the game where you'll be doing something and then all of a sudden this little girl comes out, grabs you, and that's the jump scare, and it takes you in sort of like a flashback. And it's because it happens so many times, it's boring at that point. And so yeah, it's just none of the it's just not scary. So as a horror game, that kind of takes it down. But in terms of a story versus Man of Medan, it's way more interesting. Like the cast is so much better and more interesting, because I think Man of Medan, all the characters, just the acting was really bad and the dialogue was a little off or something. And sometimes you would do things and it would just seem to like cut to a scene, and just because you didn't choose the right things, you lost something. Where like there was none of this. It all flowed, I think, a lot better.
Okay.
And the witch trials of like who's actually like, does this little girl have powers? Is it this other person? What's going on? Then there's like kind of time jumping a little bit, where all the characters who were on the bus crash, you see them in the 70s and they existed, but you also see these same characters at the witch trials. So it's just like, how is this all sort of like correlating? And I think as a narrative, it just works so much better. And so like playing it was much more interesting. They changed the QuickTime events in a little bit, to where a prompt would come up alerting you that a QuickTime event is about to happen. So like I pretty much never failed anything until near the very end, where I lost a character, and then another, and like with 5 minutes left of the game, I guess I made a choice that got another character killed. But it was like, it was so event. It was just like I made a choice, and then it like a character got trapped, but it wasn't like because I made that choice that's why they got trapped. It was just the character decided to like stand there for no reason and then just kind of like get killed. And it didn't make any sense why that happened. So I was like, well, that's stupid. So I don't think that character deserved to die. And then the other thing is the finale is... The good thing about it is I didn't see it coming, and I should have, because it was kind of established. It's just from the get-go, I should have been like, of course. But it's also kind of... I'll just say, like, nothing mattered in the end. So it was like, oh, well, that's also kind of disappointing. And, I mean, I can tell you about it if you want, but we'll just breeze past it so we can move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I actually liked Little Hope more than Man of Medan as a story structure, but as a horror sequence, it really just kind of shit the bed on that aspect of it. That's a shame. Yeah. Oh,
well, maybe by the time you get to that third one, they've worked out their issues, but I don't think that's true, because I think it's the worst one. I think the military one is considered the least interesting one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, once I download it and play it, I'll get back to you.
And there's a fourth one, right, coming? Or
yeah, there was a brief teaser trailer where I think it takes place in like a asylum or something like that. Or,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to our main topic, we actually got some tweets.
Ooh.
Someone reached out and said, hey.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
So she actually sent us 2 tweets. So this is our first one. This is D. She's at D980749990. What a great Twitter handle.
Yep. Have it memorized.
Oh, I hope that's not like a phone number or something. Everybody call D. All right. She asks, what are your favorite movies, but in each category? Horror, romantic comedy, fantasy, sci-fi, documentary, crime, etc. Well, that is a big question.
Yeah.
And probably not something we're prepared to just jump into, because I'd be like, oh yeah, my favorite fantasy is this, and then 10 minutes later go, no, it's not. It's this thing. I really need to like sit on those. So we're gonna maybe that'll be its own episode.
Okay.
A special episode. It's a bit much for right now, especially since we already have plenty of other things that we've been talking about. Her other tweet is, what movie or show do you wish you never saw? If you had the opportunity to press a button and erase the memory and get the 8 hours of your day back or of your life back, what would it be? Now, this one's also kind of hard because I purposely watch garbage and things that I don't think is garbage, but like things that you would say is garbage, like say Titans. I'm sure if you watched all of Titans, you would say, I wish I got my time back because it's not for you. And I can totally get that, but I enjoy things like that. And when it comes to movies, I'll watch the most bottom of the barrel dregs of what is considered entertainment because it's so bad. I enjoy myself, so I don't want to get the time back for that. So
and see, I watch what I believe will be good, so it's hard for me to like find things that I go like, okay, this is worth deleting. So if I'm picking a show, it'd be a show that I started probably and didn't finish, and that show might not even be like that terrible. Mm-hmm. It's not like I feel like I wasted my time on it.
Yeah. It's
just I didn't finish it, so like I guess I would take that time back because it didn't add up to anything anyway.
Yeah, like Ash versus the Evil Dead. It's one of those shows that I started at the beginning of the year, and after season 1, I was just like, I'm not into it. I like the movies, but there's something about the show that I don't want to watch. But do I hate that I spent that time? No, it's fine. There's a lot of good stuff that I do like. Mm-hmm. I think it'd be easier for you since you are a little more picky on what you watch. You have a greater opportunity to watch something that you expect to be good, and it just turns out to be dog shit.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple shows that I didn't finish and go like, okay, I started, watched 2 seasons, and just it turned out not to be for me. So something like American Horror Story. I really liked the first season. Every season after that, I watched all of 2. I got halfway through 3, and then I started 4, and it's one of those shows that it just became like sort of, I don't know, it just seemed like trash TV after season 1, and trash TV isn't for me, and so I would like to get that time back, but the episodes I watched, it's not like I just thought like, God, this is awful. I was just like, I just don't care.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a couple of shows and a couple of movies.
Okay.
One show just kind of came to mind right now, but Prison Break.
Okay.
That was a really good season 1, and then a bad season 2, and a bad season 3, and a bad season 4, and it was just like you had a great core idea, and that's all it needed to be, and they had to kind of undo things, and I'd say by the end of it, it was like, what was the point of all this? I would take that time back. The other show is Drawn Together. Did you ever watch Drawn Together?
I remember Drawn Together.
I hate Drawn Together so much. This show has so much potential of, this is a superhero cartoon, this is a 70s Scooby-Doo type cartoon, this is a Disney princess, this is your wacky SpongeBob type character, here's your video game character. What happens when they all live together?
On the real world.
They just fuck each other and say bad words.
I think it's a show that would probably work better now.
Maybe.
I think at the time, this was the early 2000s, I think it was still riding on the, like, let's just do, South Park was at its peak. It's just like, let's do offensive for the sake of doing offensive. Where it's like, I think this could have easily been a big mouth type show where you could still do offensive stuff, but have something smart to say, where I don't think the show, at least from what I remember, did.
They
especially
never
after
had
only
anything.
I think they only did the 1 season or 2?
No, 2 seasons, I believe.
Okay.
Bad show.
I remember thinking it was funny, but it also came out when I was, I don't know, 14, 15, whatever year it was. So, like, I might have been the target demo at the time.
For sure.
A little bit older than me. So.
A movie I'd like to get my time back is Slenderman. And I'm sure it was only 90 minutes or less that I get back, but is one of the most incomprehensible messes. And a lot of horror movies are messes, but this is it's a bad idea to base this off of a real life crime, and then you get a lot of blowback, and then you have to re-edit, and then you release a movie that is missing scenes from the trailer. It's a fine concept of spooky, scary monster in the woods, and a thing happens, but they don't do anything with it. It is like one of the worst horror movies I've ever seen.
Okay. Yeah, I've obviously seen bad films, but there's no bad film that really stood out to me in terms of like I truly felt like angry or like upset that I wasted my time with it, because typically I knew that movie was going to be bad when I watched it, or I even if I didn't know it was bad, like I was ready for it to be bad. That's typically movies in the horror genre that I've watched with you, but when I watch them with you, like we just have a good time making fun of them. But a movie that I saw it's my go-to movie that I go, this movie made me angry multiple times, and the only reason I didn't leave was because like I was with other people, and I'm one of those people who like doesn't. I don't leave movies.
No.
I paid for them or whatever. Even when I worked at the theater and got them for free, it's just like I set aside time to watch this. I'm gonna watch it all the way through. But the movie that makes me angry and just like I was livid and rolling my eyes and just was upset that it was a packed theater was Transformers: Age of Extinction. The fourth Transformers movie.
Yeah, I'll take back all the Transformers movies.
Now, I think the first one came out in 2007, so I was 17. First one came out, huge hit. I like Transformers 1. Transformers 2 came out. A lot of people hated it, but I was just like, no, what? It was fine. Popcorn, summer movie, big robots fighting each other. You had Optimus Prime throw on a jetpack or whatever and became Super Optimus. That was cool. Whatever. And then the third one came out, and it was like, that one had crazy Shia, and like that was kind of annoying, but you had, once again, Optimus Prime swooping in, become Super Optimus or whatever. Like, there's some cool action scenes, I think, in the first three, even if there is like bad stuff. The fourth one, like,
this is the Mark Wahlberg one, right?
This is the first Mark Wahlberg one. Like, multiple scenes in that movie made me cringe and want to scream at the theater. Like, I think I might have been audible in the theater to the point where like I was annoying people next to me because of like, first it was the scene. I mean, there might have been other scenes, but the first scene I remember is I can fuck your daughter because I have this Texas law card that says the age of consent is cool for me. What a weird scene.
Why is that in there?
Yeah.
Is that the writer going, like, he was in that situation and wanted to bring light to a thing that he's been made fun of? Or was it like a producer who was doing this fucked up thing and sleeping with an underage person and went like, no, actually, there's a law?
Well, I think it was just my theory, and I don't know, because it's all stupid, is that you had Megan Fox for 2 movies. She was clearly old enough, eye candy, whatever. And then you had a supermodel in the third one, clearly okay to look at. And then you had this other girl who I think when the movie was filming was well over 18, but didn't look 18. So you needed this thing. It's like, okay, clearly she's the eye candy of this movie. Dudes are going to want to have sex with her. But is she underage? We'll have a card scene that makes it's okay to gawk at her, guys. Which that made me feel icky.
Just make her 19.
Make her 19. Who cares?
And it's like, the age gap between them. When you're an actor, a 35-year-old and a 25-year-old can play like siblings that are just like a few years apart. It doesn't matter. Just make this guy her boyfriend and they're in college.
Yeah, and because like you don't have to have her be a child, quotation marks, for Mark Wahlberg to care about her more. It's like, my underage daughter is in trouble. I need to protect her. It's like, if she's suddenly 18, she's an adult, so you don't have to.
You don't have to do it.
You can have still Mark Wahlberg be protective of his daughter. I don't know. Yeah. That scene, once that scene happened, and that happened in the first, I think, 25 minutes, I was just like, oh, here we go. And then there's the Dinobots come in for like 10 minutes, and like they look cool for a second, but really like they don't really do anything. You basically had them in there so Optimus could ride a T-Rex for a shot. So they were just thrown away, and that didn't fucking matter. And then one of the most egregious scenes, I think, in cinema history is you have Stanley Tucci doing a Beats pill commercial in the fucking middle of it. I think I just screamed out loud. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, that scene... And what was it? The Transformium. Oh, the Transformium. We can make anything. We can make this. We can make this. We could even make a Beats pill. And I get it. Product placement funds movies, and you occasionally have stuff in the background. Like if you want to throw a Mickey D's symbol in the background of a fight scene, sure. As long as it's not like, hey guys, let's stop at Mickey D's after this fight or whatever. Who cares? Yeah. But when you just have such blatant product placement, as a director, you've stopped caring about your movie. You don't care about this thing. You're just making...
to be fair, movies are expensive, and if you can help the budget by doing product placement, I totally understand it. But when
I'm not inherently against product placement.
But when you stop everything to go, hey everyone, look at this.
Yeah, you're selling out artistic integrity to make... I'm worked up right now, so I guess Age of Extinction is my question. Delete Age of Extinction, because like I can live with the first 3. I didn't see The Last Night solely because of how much I hated 4.
What, you don't want to see the further adventures of Cade Yeager, the coolest cool guy there is? Did you see how
Hey,
he opens that Bud Light on a car door? He just goes, psst. So cool.
Hey, Optimus Prime. Say I didn't know for me, okay?
Well, I got one last that I would love to delete, and it's actually multiple movies. It's anything from Jason Friedberg and Aaron Seltzer. All the disaster movies, your date movies, your vampire sucks. All those have no redeeming quality and are just sort of they're like clickbait movies. They're just like, hey, you know this thing, so you want to see this thing because how do you work Kung Fu Panda and Iron Man into the same movie? Well, you can't, because it doesn't make any sense, and you're only doing it because there was a trailer that was released in production and you had to like copy it because look how on the pulse you'll be with your references as soon as it comes out, but then instantly dates your movie. So if anybody ever goes back to it and they see this weird, I don't know, Hannah Montana sort of thing, it's like, well, what is this? I don't get your references, because you had to do just like what was timely at the time and not what is timeless.
Yeah, I was thinking about those movies when I was trying to think of stuff I'd like to delete, and the only reason I didn't pick those movies is because, one, I haven't seen most of them, and it's just I knew the ones that I did see were gonna be hot dog shit, and I think the only reason I saw them was because like someone invited me to go. I was like, all right, fine, I'll watch it with you. Like, it's not like I'm paying for it anyway because we worked at the theater at the time, but yeah, I would have never paid for those movies. But like I knew going in, like, my brain was on autopilot of like, I can delete these in my brain anyway because I'm not going to pay much attention to it. Like, those movies are offensive to movies, but they know they are, at least. Like, they're not going in there trying to think like, oh, we're actually funny, because everyone knows they're not. Yeah. It's just, here's a stupid thing that's going to make us $1 million so we can do another stupid thing to keep making $1 million. Yep. Like, it's not about how do we make $100 million at the box office, how do we make enough money to make a profit, and that's it. Yep, absolutely. By doing 100 product placements in a
this epic movie, because we worked at a theater together. I worked in a theater in Vegas, and I actually worked in a theater in California for a short amount of time before I moved to Vegas. It was just something to supplement my income.
Epic movie has Cal Penn in it, right?
Yes.
Okay,
and
that's
Jama
one of the
Mays, and
that's one of the few that I did see, and actually, like, of all of them, I think it's probably the best one, but I also haven't seen most of them.
It's a little more coherent.
Yeah.
It makes sense of why these things are together. I guess.
I mean, but I also might only like it because it's doing, like, fantasy Narnia, Lord of the Rings bits and stuff. Yeah, that's more my wheelhouse, but I understand that it's still hot dog shit.
That was my first movie, my first free movie when I started working there.
That's your opener?
Well, it was the opening weekend, so it was like, at that time, I was seeing everything that was coming out anyways on my own dime. So when I got there, I had seen everything already. So I was like, okay, I'll watch that. And then when I went to Vegas, my first free movie there was Live Free Die Hard. It was, that wasn't opening week.
That's the fourth one. Okay, Live Free Die Hard.
Live Free Die Hard's awesome.
Yeah.
Anybody who shits on it, they don't know fun. It's one of the most fun action movies. Yeah. It was in its last week, so it was in the smallest theater. So I don't even remember what was out when I started there. And then at the theater we worked at, my first free movie was Super 8.
Oh, so see, that's a good one.
That's a good one. I mean, those are three very, very different movies. But anywho, the Friedberg, Seltzer assholes, go fuck yourself. I'm looking on your IMDb, and it doesn't look like you have anything coming up. It's like the last thing you directed was Super Fast, which I never saw that. But get fucked. All your stuff sucks. And
but it's weird, like, as popular as Fast and Furious is now, and how sort of easily you could parody that, and like how much of a, like, obviously they're popular, but everyone's still like, it's like you're kind of in on the joke with Fast and Furious. You're taking none of that stuff seriously. Yeah. Like, Super Fast seems like it would be one that would be like almost worth making. Yeah. Because like that franchise is such kind of like a joke.
All right, next episode, Super Fast is our main topic. We'll do Super Fast and like Meet the Spartans, like double feature.
We just told Freeberg and Seltzer to go fuck themselves. It's like, now we're going to do a marathon of them.
Hell yeah. Come on to the show and let me tell you to go fuck yourself to your face. There's one.
Honestly, if they wanted to meet, though, I'd be so interested to talk to them about it.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. superhero movie with
Drake Bell.
Yeah.
Well, that's hard to do.
Nobody wants to see that because of him. But apparently, I remember watching it, and I have no memory of it, but I guess it's like a pretty good parody of like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the X-Men movies.
Kevin Hart, before he became Kevin Hart, is like, I think his best friend in that.
Really?
I think so. Yeah,
well, yeah, Kevin Hart is Trey.
Was that 08?
Oh, Steve. God, you're so good! Steve has this ability to remember the years that things come out and what number movie theater he saw specific movies in.
No, that's not necessarily true.
You were pretty good.
I'm pretty good at that, but I would say, like, I have them all memorized.
Well, I'd hope not. That's insane, because for the last, how many years you've been going to one theater, if you can remember all screens.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, D98763250191. No, it's
we'll call you later.
D980-74990 if you want to at her.
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate if anybody wants to, please get in contact with us and we'll answer your stupid question on the podcast. I mean, really good question that is well thought out. But thanks, D. We'll
we love our fans.
Yeah, we like some of them. All right, well, so our main topic. We didn't even say what the main topic was up top. No, I guess
whatever you read the title must have been when you clicked on
just a bunch of question marks I'll put.
Oh.
I figure it out. What can it possibly
Thanksgiving
be?
mystery episode.
So we just hours ago watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Ooh.
The long-awaited sequel
to the sequel. You forgot that movie existed, didn't you?
No, I didn't. Because on the way over, I was thinking, okay, I'm showing my hand now, but like, what was worse, Afterlife or Answer the Call?
Wait, is that what it's called?
It's just called Ghostbusters, but on a lot of DVDs and stuff, it's called Ghostbusters Answer the Call.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Like, I know I saw the Kristen Wiig Ghostbusters, but I think I was, like, on my phone, or maybe I was drunk when I started. There is something that hindered me from, like, really paying attention. So I know I saw it, but I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing that happens in that movie.
It's very bad.
Or I think I maybe like fell asleep with like 20 minutes left, because I think I remember talking to you about it and you told me that something happens at the end. And I'm like, wait, that's the end of the movie? So yeah, I'll say that this is better than the Kristen Wiig one, only because I don't think I actually finished the Kristen Wiig one.
I would also say that this one is probably better just because...
I think it has heart.
Yes, but it is so lacking any creativity. At least, okay, with Ghostbusters Answer the Call, they at least try to do an original story, even if it is just kind of more of a similar vibe of get together and create the Ghostbusters. At least it had its own unique villain, and the characters weren't necessarily, related to, which I think could have actually helped that movie. But this movie was practically nothing. This movie has nothing going for it except for nostalgia. But see, like, the thing I want to say that I kind of liked about it was that it didn't, like, beat you over the head with, like, references. Like, there was the who you gonna call sort of thing that, like, lingered a little too long. But it really wasn't just like, oh, look at this thing. Now look at this thing. Like, yeah. The whole last 40 minutes was look at this thing. Look at the dogs. Look at its Gozer. Look at its Marshmallow Man. Look, it's
the last 30 minutes, sure.
But even building up to that, it's like, oh, look, she found a Crunch Bar in his suit. You remember that from the first movie? Oh, look, he's doing mold and spores and stuff. It's just like... Hey, you remember this thing? We're going to have it there because that means we're real fans and we're really doing, it
I'm not
justice.
saying that there's not plenty of references. It's just, like, I feel like other sequels do so much to, like, make sure, like, you really look at a thing. Sure. Or, like, you really, like, oh, get the joke because we're doing this thing. Where, like, it was more like, here's a thing that, like, her pulling out the Crunch Bar, I get was a reference, but it's not, like, such a popular reference that it was just like, oh, look at that. Like, I don't, at least for me, like, I didn't even really remember that.
But that's like a throwaway joke in Ghostbusters, and in this, it's like, has that same candy bar been in his pocket the whole time, or did he like just become obsessed with candy bars and just so happened to leave one in his suit? It's just little things like that. Oh, look, there's a stack of books in their living room. Remember the stack of books from the library in the first movie? It's nothing but, look at that thing. Do you remember that thing? If they would have done all those things, but the last bit was no Gozer, no dogs, no similar bullshit, then I would have maybe liked it a bit more, because they're just creating their own new thing. But it's just, go back to the well of what you know and let's just do it again. Why do it again? If you're gonna do another Ghostbusters reboot right after this the previous one, do something that can set up the world that doesn't rely completely on the first one. The original cast never should have come back. The phone call with Dan Aykroyd was all you need. He spouts off a bunch of exposition, and that's the end of it. And then you have them dealing with this whatever mystery in this small town, and it doesn't have to be such end-of-the-world stakes. I just... This movie, I'm giving a D+.
Okay.
I only gets the plus because I think, what's her name, McKenna Grace is very good. She's just a good little actress, and she's good in pretty much everything that I've seen her in.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I've never really... I mean, as adults shouldn't follow child actors. Well, it's just like, I've never seen an actress in so many things, and everything I've seen her in, she crushes.
Yeah.
Like, she is the best young actress of her age, or the next generation. Yeah, I think she's clearly gonna have an Oscar eventually in her lifetime.
Yeah,
because I think the first time I ever saw her was in Gifted, and that's a great movie, and she's fantastic in it. And then we've seen her on Haunting of Hill House, which she's good in. She always plays younger versions of other people, and
a lot of times.
But yeah,
she's young Captain Marvel, I think.
I think so. Yeah, it's just everything this young actress is in, she's great, and I think she's gonna have a fantastic career long after this, especially like now that she's done so many franchises. Like, if she gets older and just wants to do like indie darlings or whatever, she'll probably do them and fucking get awards for all those.
Sure.
So anyway, I think this movie's definitely helped by her. Like, she's the lead of this movie, and I think she carries this movie more than anyone else. Like, you bring in Paul Rudd, and Paul Rudd's fine,
just running it up.
You would think that Paul Rudd would be really like scene stealing and really doing like really great comedic lines, but it's just fine actually. I don't think he really stole anything or really added too much to it. I think he was the funniest one for sure. But I don't think he didn't blow me away like I kind of was hoping he would. All the other characters in this movie are kind of one note. Like, Finn Wolfhard, I hated in this movie, and like, I have nothing against Finn Wolfhard. I think he's great on Stranger Things, but his whole character was, I'm a little douchey teen for the first 45 minutes, and then once I see a ghost, I'm just helping my sister. Like, he doesn't do anything else.
He has no character.
Yeah, and his character only kind of exists so he can meet the girl who's, luckily, her dad is the police chief or whatever, so she can get access back from prison. It's like, you didn't even need that character at all. And then Carrie Coon, who we love in just about everything, was just kind of like a shitty mom.
She was awful. She's like the worst mom in a movie, and it's like, are we supposed to be endeared to her or whatever because of how tough she has it, but we don't really know why she has it so tough, and then she just sits there and drinks. She sucks. She's a really bad character.
Yeah, and I do like parental figures who sometimes aren't your typical parental figure. It's not always being supportive, or it's just like, oh, my kid kind of, like, if McKenna Grace was always getting into trouble because she was doing science, and she's like, I'm upset with you because, you got in trouble at school, but like, I understand it was for a science purpose. Like, I can get behind a parent who's maybe not disciplining her children as much as she should, but it's because she knows her child is going to do more. She doesn't want to hold that child back. Like, I think there is good parenting to being untypically kind of shitty. But I think she was just kind of a dick the whole movie, solely because so she could have her closure at the end. But because I didn't like her throughout the whole movie, I didn't care that she got her closure at the end. So it's just, if she was a little bit more endearing, I would have enjoyed her more. And like you said, we both really like Carrie Coon. Go watch The Leftovers.
Yeah.
She's great in it. But yeah, as you were saying, the movie has Gozer come back and the dogs and all that stuff. And I think it definitely would have benefited if they went a different way. Or at least if they had Gozer set up something else. Like, because my big problem with it was not so much Gozer was brought back, it was the end where, like, the final shot of this movie, I know we're just skipping over a lot of stuff, but I just want to get to it, is the Ghostbusters vehicle, like, driving towards New York. So is it they're going to New York to be the new Ghostbusters? Or was that
the original Ghostbusters
driving back to New York? Because it's like, once they sealed or stopped the ghost invasion in that town where, like, the real, I guess, origin of the temple was or whatever, like, there's still no ghosts in New York, so there's no point in opening the Ghostbusters back up, and you could have just opened the Ghostbusters in this town. Like, what was that final shot really saying?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just like, if you had Gozer, you defeated Gozer, but somehow, like, the portal was still open, or there's some sort of rift where, like, Ghost existed. So, like, now where there's still ghosts out there, it's like, okay, like, have them go to New York, set up shop, and, you know, that's the Ghostbusters Afterlife 2. Like, they're going to New York to set up the shop again. But you stopped all the ghosts. And when they stopped the ghost in the second Ghostbusters, they said in this movie, oh, there hasn't been a ghost sighting in 30 years. So, there should just be no more Ghostbusters. Like, there's no point in continuing ghostbusting if you stopped the god of ghosts. So, like, what are we doing here?
I don't get why they made that choice. Why make it ghosts stop showing up? Just make it, this is a thing now. Yeah, that's one of the problems with this franchise is they didn't do it properly. They really should have. Obviously, can't go back and do this, but they should have made a Ghostbusters 3 in the, early to mid 90s and just kind of finish off their trilogy or whatever, and then you do
when Bill Murray still looked like a human being.
Yeah, and not one of the actual ghost puppets.
Because, no offense to Mr. Murray, one of the greatest comedic actors, and just actors in general, of our time, but man, he looked rough in this movie. Yeah. Like, you would have thought, like, they could have put some makeup or
the sad thing is they probably did.
Because, I mean, the ghost of Harold Ramis looked great compared to the actual real human.
Yeah, give us just a CG Bill Murray. We don't need him on set. He looks awful.
I think that final fight did kind of work in the sense of, like, it was very hokey in terms of, like, oh, here comes the old boys, but, like, seeing them back together again, and you had the ghost of Egon there, and kind of, like, bringing in the new generation, and they defeated Gozer again, and the CGI on Harold Ramis I thought looked great. I just think a lot of that worked, but it's just a shame that, like, it just seemed like it was all building to that 10 minutes that worked really well, and then everything else around it was just, like, mediocre at best.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more variety in ghosts, because you had Muncher. It's like, who was clearly just like, okay, we're not going to do Slimer, but we'll do another thing that looks exactly like it, but instead of sliming everything, he eats everything.
Yeah, and he's blue.
He's blue. But I guess Slimer ate a lot of things too.
Yeah.
This one ate metal.
Yeah. Ooh, subverting it.
Scary.
Yeah, and then there was, like, the miner in the diner. And he was, like, kind of like the cab driver in the first one. But we don't see a whole lot of other ghosts. Whereas in Answer the Call, it's just, like, nothing but crazy ghosts at the end, which I didn't love. I didn't really like the look of most of them. But it's like they never were able to find a happy medium. The Answer the Call one, they got characters that are just copies of the original and did their own versions, but at least I had, like, a new story and new villain. This has 0 characters, and then they just reused a previous thing. They can't find a happy balance of like, let's do new and fresh characters with a new and fresh story. It's like, nope, you have to pull as much as you can from that original, and now that the original is just a husk now. It has nothing left for you to take from it. And so like I was saying before, you do your trilogy and you end them. And I remember being in my 20s and hearing that there was going to be like a new Ghostbusters reboot, and you would have your Paul Rudds, your Jack Blacks, your Will Ferrells, and someone else, and they would be the new team because now Ghostbusters is a franchise and they're all around the country and people are signing up for it. And then this feels like, well, we've done our trilogy with that. Where do you take Ghostbusters now? Well, what if you tell a smaller story of this tech being found by people who don't know what it's about, and they're solving their small ghost problems in their small town? And that would have been perfectly fine, but it's like, nope, you have to connect it to the original story, and it has to be Gozer again, and it's just so uncreative and pretty much devoid of anything of value.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I get the reason, I'm guessing, a big reason why they went with Gozer and kind of rehashing a lot of this stuff is, because Harold Ramis' son is the one who directed this movie, and
it's not Harold Ramis' son.
Oh, it's not Harold Ramis' son?
No, it's the director from the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah. It's just like, well, this is my,
it's a family legacy.
This is a family legacy. This is my love letter to that, and it's a love letter to Harold Ramis and everything like that. So this is how we got to connect it.
Mm-hmm.
To being the grandchildren of Spangler and all that stuff, which is fine, but at the same time, like if you wanted to start a new trilogy, you're starting, like, I'm not saying that they are starting a new trilogy. This might just be the one-off, and it's like, okay, we're done. But if I'm imagining you continue the series, now you've saddled yourself with children who, like, you're not going to have children be the new Ghostbusters.
On your payroll and sending them out to bus.
I mean, I like the idea of, like, girl genius, kind of figuring it out and, like, saving the day and all that stuff. But, like, it really, like you said, should have been whoever the big four comedic actors are now, put them in a thing and launch that, because I don't want to see Finn Wolfhard and his sister and Carrie Coon suit up and take on ghosts. Like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Like, it works in this story, but after this, I don't need to see these characters ever again, unless you want to do 20 years down the line and McKenna Grace wants to do another one, sure, I guess. But at that point, the original Ghostbusters will be 50 years old or however old it is.
60.
Yeah.
Around 60.
So it's like, not really? Like, yeah, that's my bigger problem with this movie is just, you really can't take this anywhere, I don't think, at least
anymore.
With this. Anymore, yes.
Yeah, you could have before, because it's a great premise of just, it's exterminators, but with ghosts. Cool. That's you could take that in a million ways, but then once you try it once and fail, and try it a second time and fail, now you're where else do you go?
Yeah. Unless it's just this family started up and now they just run the company, she does the tech, and then you have, like, you basically write them off in the first 10 minutes and then you have your main whoever. But at this point, once again, you've tried 2 Ghostbusters movies along with all this other rehash of whatever random crap from the 80s, 90s, whoever, just trying to, get money. It's just, you've done 2, they've both not been received well. Just stop with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You gave it your best shot.
Yeah.
It's over now. Or you didn't give it your best shot, you just shot at it and hoped it would land.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would give this movie a C-, because I didn't dislike it per se. I think it just didn't need to exist, and that's the biggest thing against it. But I think there are parts about it that I think it was fun, and for the most part. And there were times I was watching it and I was like, man, this really does kind of feel like an old school Spielberg kind of movie.
Sure.
With the score and everything, and, with your child lead and everything. I think there are parts of it where it's like, there's something here that this could work. But at the end of the day, because you've saddled it with the Ghostbusters and you tied it to Gozer, and you had to make sure that all this stuff sort of fit to this old franchise who, like this movie's for people who love Ghostbusters, and mostly that's people over the age of 35. But your movie is not necessarily marketed, but, like, you've made it for everyone but like anyone younger than 35, are they really going to care about this movie? Yeah. I don't really know.
Yeah, and
it's just fine across the board for me. I don't hate it. I don't dislike it. It's just fine. And also, we didn't even talk about J.K. Simmons is in it for like 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
I get that I'm sure he's a friend of Ivan Reitman? Jason Reitman, yeah, thank you. I'm sure he's a friend of the family, and so maybe it was just like, hey, buddy, you want to be in this? It's one day of your shoot.
Why not?
But it just seems so weird that he was in it. And it seemed like that character was sort of leading to something. Like, that's deleted scenes that didn't make it in the movie. Yes,
absolutely.
And it just seems like a waste of a character.
Is he dead? Is he just in a cryo sleep? They never really answered, because he would wake up when all the stuff is coming out, and then when it went back down, he fell back asleep. So
yeah, it felt like he should have been an important role to the movie, and then when he wakes up, he's like, "Oh, finally! Like I've been able to summon you. We can." And then he instantly killed. It's just like, what was the point? That was so weird.
Yeah,
and was that Olivia Wilde?
I think so. I didn't look at the credits, but it looked like her. That jawline is pretty...
It looked like her, but I was looking through the credits. I don't remember seeing her name. Let's look it up real quick. I mean, she looked cool.
Yeah, I love the way the light traveled through the suit.
Mm-hmm.
She played a good gozer.
Yeah. And I feel like there was another like surprise cameo. Maybe not. But yeah, I don't know.
It had the Shocker from Spider-Man Homecoming. That was the dad, the police chief dad. That was Shocker.
Yeah. Oh, and Sigourney Weaver pops up for another little nod to the...
After her credits show up in the credits.
I mean, it was literally like a second later. So.
Yes, but it was like...
when I saw her name, I was like, oh, wait, was she like a voice on a telephone or something like that? But
yeah, Olivia Wilde is Gozer.
Okay, cool. I mean, we don't really need to talk about the character podcast, which is dumb fuck. But it's like, once again, that's a character who is someone for McKenna Grace to interact with, and like that young actor, he did a great job. Fine. Like, I have nothing really against podcasts, but also I don't know. It feels like here's a character with a podcast, and you never hear the podcast. Mm-mm. You see him like recording stuff, but it never seems like he ever really comes into play. I guess he's sort of a tech kid, so that's why he can operate the RSC car and help out. But I never got the inkling that he was like so good with like wires and stuff. He knew how to really help. He was just kind of there for
exposition points
and comedic effect. But I think none of his jokes really worked that well. But
none of his jokes were like cringy either.
It was
like, that was just unfunny.
Yeah, and then you had like the callback joke of, oh, my episode, I really hit my stride in episode 46. And then you have Dan Aykroyd at the end going like, oh, I liked your podcast. It really hit his stride in episode 46. And it's like, oh, do you want to be on my podcast? Like, yeah, I'd love to. And like, that should have been the end credit sequences. Sure. Like those two on a podcast talking about whatever. And you could do some sort of fun reference. But like, yeah, his whole character is based around a podcast that you never see or hear or do anything with.
Doesn't come into play.
It doesn't come into play at all. And like, it's just a weird bit. It's just like every character exists so one thing can happen to advance the plot.
Yes.
And it just seems like you could have called that kid Dennis, and he just been her friend, and it would have been the exact same experience.
Or like they're recording a podcast and he puts it out, and his fan base is so big, they listen, and then they come to help for whatever reason. You would think that's how you use that person's skills, but no.
Yeah, or like, oh, my podcast doesn't have any viewers, and then at the end of the movie, like, you see news crews come and they interview him, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm part of the new Ghostbusters. You can hear all about it on my new podcast.
Yeah.
And then the end tag is just like, his podcast is now huge and everybody's listening. And maybe the original Ghostbusters didn't show up, but you see that they've been listening to it, and it's like, looks like we're back in business, boys. And they just suit up. You could have done anything with that podcast, but you did literally nothing with it. So yeah, a lot of the characters were one note, but McKenna Grace is going to be a fucking superstar. She's great.
I don't know if I have much of anything else to say about this movie, otherwise, except that it sucks, and it may be on my worst of the year list. It blows.
It might be on my worst of the year list, But once again, it's only because I don't really see that many terrible movies.
A C or lower for you is the worst.
Yeah.
You generally don't see the
I mean,
DNFs.
Space Jam, I gave a D-, but I think I bumped down to an F.
I think I gave that an F.
No, you did give it an F. I remember. 'Cause I was a little bit nicer about it than you. But after talking to you more about it, I'm like, yeah, it's an F.
Yeah.
So Space Jam will probably be spoiler alert, will probably be my worst of the year. Because I can't imagine I'll see anything worse.
I know I have a bunch of other stuff. I want to. It's either that or like Malignant for me.
It's crazy how popular Malignant is.
Yeah, it's disgusting. People have no taste. And then as someone who doesn't have much taste, it's a shame. That movie sucks my butt.
Yeah, like you like Raisin Bran, but all these people like plain oatmeal.
Yeah, or just cornflakes.
Or cornflakes, yeah.
Now,
Meanwhile, me over here, I'm sitting pretty on
Honey Bunches of Oats.
Honey Bunches of Oats, baby.
Look at all the different things I got. You got raisins and bran flakes.
I was gonna say like.
Oh, I gave Malignant a D.
Oh.
So I guess Space Jam is my number one worst.
You gave it a D because it's a horror thing, and you just have to like.
Yeah, it's like I like this one thing and this concept. Everything else is garbage.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all I have to say about it. Do you have anything else, or you want to take it home?
No, I think I'm good. Sorry that this might be a long episode. Just
No, it actually isn't.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, we crammed a lot of shit. We're getting better at like stop being so long-winded about dumb shit.
Yeah. It's just like sometimes we'll start I'll be like, oh, let me just knock this thing out, and then next thing I know, it's like 10 minutes later. I was like, shit, why did we talk about this?
Yeah.
And that's what I was worried about when I brought up like Only Murderers and Wheel of Time, because I feel like part of me is like, oh, we did talk about that for a little bit, but I guess not as long as I actually think it is.
Nope, yeah, sometimes when I'm editing these, it's like, wow, we talked about that one stupid thing for 20 minutes, and then something else is like 4.
Yeah.
So you never know. It just depends on what I want to know about yours and what you want to know about mine. All right, Steve. Well, that was some fun talking. Why don't you take us home?
All right. If you want to send us an email with any questions, concerns, life problems, suggestions, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter and do the same thing, and that is at WRPL Podcast. I guess that's the end, because it's my first time closing down.
I just wanted to see how you were going to take that. Yeah, that's our handles. That's our socials. So thanks, everybody, once again for listening. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
And he's on the right.